Today we are going to talk about angle pairs. And so we have this graphic organizer and we are going to show you these 5 different angle pairs, and what you guys are going to practice today is being able to identify your angle pairs. Alright, so we're going to start over here with adjacent. Okay. The definition of adjacent angles are 2 angles that are next to each other. So that's important. So circle that, underline it. They're next to each other and they share a common side. Okay, so let's draw a picture so you can see what that looks like. So adjacent angles, they're 2 angles that are next to each other and they share a common side. So we'll draw one angle, there's one angle, and then we will draw a second angle. I'm just going to make it a different color so you can see it. Now the second angle, that side is the same side as the purple. Draw that. Okay. And so they're next to each other. We could call this one angle 1. We can call this one angle 2. And what you want to pay attention to, we would call them adjacent because they're next to each other. And this side that I'm marking red is a shared side. Okay, it's the bottom of angle 1 and it's the top of angle 2. So adjacent angles are just next to each other that share a common side. Now, let's look at some other types of angles. Okay, we're going to look at complementary next. Okay. Complementary angles are 2 angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Now what does sum mean? Yeah, sum means that they add up to. So you might want to make a note to yourself. Sum is that they're going to add up to 90 degrees. So these can be adjacent or they can be separate. Okay, we will be mostly working with the adjacent angles that are complementary, but we'll draw a picture of 2 angles that are complementary that are not adjacent. But what you're going to have is something like this. So everybody, let's draw this picture. Okay. So hopefully everybody can see that corner, and what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 angles out of this one angle. So let's do something like that. Okay. Now, when they are like this, they will have probably a box in this corner. That box will tell you that this corner, this entire corner that is purple, is 90 degrees. I drew that blue side so it split it into 2 different angles, 2 smaller different angles. We could call this angle 1, we could call this angle 2. But because angle 1 and angle 2 put together give us this purple angle, okay, which looks like a corner, it has a little box in it, then I know that they are complementary because angle 1 added to angle 2 gives me a 90 degree angle. Okay, and we call them complementary angles. Complementary angles add up to 90. So when you're working or looking to identify these, if 2 angles are put together and they give you a corner like this, then they are complementary. They can also be 2 separate angles, but again, we're not going to do a lot with the separate, meaning you might have this angle right here, and they may say, hey, this angle is 50 degrees. You may have another angle over here, and they may say this angle is 40 degrees. And if you add 50 and 40, you come up with 90. So you could also say that these 2 angles are complementary. Okay. But again, what you want to remember about this is complementary angles add up to 90. Okay. If they are next to each other and make this corner, this lovely purple corner here, then they are complementary. Okay, and again, you'll see that box to tell you that that is 90 degrees. Now, similar to that, we have supplementary angles. Okay, supplementary angles are any two angles whose sum is 180. So again, what does that word mean? Sum. Sum means they add up to. Okay, add up to. Now, supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Again, I'm going to draw two pictures for you. One when they're next to each other or adjacent, and then another picture when they are separate. But let's look at the ones that are next to each other, because again, those are the ones that we will be spending more time with. So if I draw that is called a straight angle. But I can actually draw this, and hopefully what everybody sees is that I have now created two different angles. This one that I'm coloring blue, and let's see if we can do red. This one that I am making red. Okay, now they are next to each other. Okay, you can see the red and the blue overlap. They share that side, so we would call them adjacent. But because they are next to each other and they create this straight angle right here, okay, in purple, then we say they are supplementary. Angle 1, angle 2. So if they are next to each other and create, some people say a straight line, and I know why they do, but technically it's a straight angle, okay, and straight angles are always 180 degrees. But if they're next to each other and they create this straight angle, they are supplementary, which means angle 1 plus angle 2 would give me 180 degrees. Now again, they could be separate angles, so they could have one angle over here, and they could say, hey, this angle measures 60, and then another angle completely separate from it, and they could say this angle is 120. If you added the 120 and the 60, and you came up with 180, then you could call them supplementary angles. Now, if you added them together and you got like 181, then they wouldn't be supplementary, they would just be one obtuse angle and one acute angle. But again, we'll be mostly working with the adjacent angles that are supplementary. So what you're looking for is, are they next to each other and do they create a straight angle? If they do, they add up to 180. Now, they actually have a special name for this pair right here when they're next to each other, and they call them a linear pair. And they're just a special kind of supplementary angle. They have to be next to each other. Okay, now if you drop down and look at this picture again, this 120 and 60, they're not next to each other. They do add up to 180, so we would say they were supplementary. But they are not next to each other. They're not adjacent. They don't share a side, so we couldn't call them a linear pair. Okay, a linear pair, they have to be next to each other and share a side. Okay, so again, what that would look like is that first picture we drew for supplementary. Some version, well, let's make the line go the other way, just so you can see the line will change position this side. And so this angle right here, which we would call angle 1, and this angle right here, when I look at them, I go, okay, angle 1 is adjacent or next to angle 2. So that meets this qualification. They're adjacent, they're next to each other, share a side. And together I see that they form a straight line, or again, a straight angle. And so this has a special name. They call that a linear pair. And you just want to know that it's just a special kind of supplementary, so they still add up to 180. Okay. They're just next to each other and share a side. And again, that's the one we'll mostly be working with. And you're fine if you just say supplementary. Once in a while, they'll just throw linear pair in there, and sometimes people are like, I don't know what that is. Okay, they're next to each other, they make a straight angle / straight line, so they're supplementary, so they have to add up to 180. The last one we're going to look at, okay, are vertical angles. Vertical angles are not next to each other. Okay, if you read this, you actually see they are across from each other when two lines are intersecting. And the thing about vertical angles is they're always congruent, so they always have the same measure. So you can look at the person in your pod that's directly across from you, and the math word for that would be that they're vertical to you. Directly across. They're not next to you, they're not on your right, they're not on your left, they're directly across from you. So if we draw two lines that intersect, it will look like some version of an X. What they are saying is vertical angles are across from each other. So if I want you to look at this angle, the angle that's directly across or opposite would be this angle. Okay, and if they tell me that that angle is 100 degrees, then I know this angle is 100 degrees. Excuse me. Because vertical angles are always congruent. If they tell me, now there's another pair, and I know some of you see it. These are also vertical angles. They are directly across from each other. So they could tell me that this angle is 80. What would we know about its vertical angle? It's 80 because vertical angles are always congruent. So what we're really going to focus on, or really want to make sure that you guys have a good handle on, because we will use them from now until May, we're really going to work on recognizing vertical angles, complementary angles, lost my set. Vertical, complementary, and supplementary in the linear pair, the supplementary angles that are next to each other and create that straight angle. So let's actually look at what we want you to be able to do today. So go to the next, flip it over in the back. All right, it says identifying types of angles. Check all relationships between 1 and 2. Now, watch out for this word, okay, because they are trying to get you there. So let's look at example 1. So they want us to look at angle 1 and 2. And you may want to mark it just so you can really see. So the first thing is that it says, are they adjacent? So are they next to each other, and do they share a side? Well, hopefully everybody can see they are not next to each other. They are directly across or opposite each other, and they do not share a side. So, not adjacent. And you need to kind of run through all of these, because since they said select all, there's probably some that have more than one answer. So, 1 and 2. Well, we said they're across from each other. Okay. So that fits our definition of vertical. Then we need to look, are they complementary? Do they add up to 90? Well, this picture we don't have enough information. You don't have any numbers. You don't have any numbers to add, and so we can't for sure say they're complementary. Same thing with supplementary. Since they are across from each other, you would need numbers, and you would need to see if they add up to 180. Okay, we don't have numbers, we can't tell. And last but not least, are they a linear pair, which means are they next to each other and make a straight line? Well, we've already said they're not next to each other, so they're not a linear pair either. So only vertical on number 1. All right, let's look at number 2. Now, number 2 assumes that you know something right here. So remember we said the box means what? Box means this is 90. Okay, and if that's 90, what you have to recognize is that this right here would also be a 90-degree angle. This angle right here. Okay, so that's kind of a little trick question there. So they want us to look at angle 1 and 2. So if we look at angle 1 and compare it to angle 2, and if it helps you, those are called arcs, ARC. Some people like to trace the angle with their pencil. There's angle 1, Okay. Some people like the arcs better. You can decide. There's angle 2. All right, so are they adjacent? Are they next to each other and do they share a side? The answer to that would be yes. Okay. They share this side right here, so they're adjacent. Are they across from each other? Well, hopefully if you say they're next to each other, then you know they cannot be across from each other also. Okay, they're either going to be next to each other or across from each other. They're not going to be both. Are they complementary? Remember, what does complementary mean? Add up to 90. Well, don't miss this little box. And again, they assume something here, and sometimes that's not a good thing. If this is 90, then you know this is 90. So when I take angle 1 and put it together with angle 2, would that give me 90 degrees? That would be yes. And the reason is it would give me, running out of colors, but it would give me this corner right here. 1 and 2 together give me this corner. Now, if they are complementary, they cannot be supplementary. Okay? If they add up to 90, they cannot add up to 180. Okay? They can't add up to two different things. Okay? And if they are complementary, they cannot be linear, because remember, linear means they're supplementary. Linear also means they make a straight angle. And again, they together do not make a straight line or straight angle. They make this corner, and so they're not going to be linear. So number 2 has 2 answers, adjacent and complementary. Number 3. Now, this is where some people get stuck. So again, it's a good idea to trace it even if you don't have colors with your pencil. Angle 1 is this angle. Okay. And if you're like to do the arcs, that would be this piece. And angle 2 is this angle. And if you like the arcs, that's what it would look like. And my drawing is terrible, isn't it? Can't even stay on the line. Let me try that again. Angle 2. There we go. That looks a little better. So again, you just walk through the process. Adjacent. Are they next to each other and share a side? The answer is yes. This is the side that they share in red. So remember, if we said if they're next to each other, they're not across from each other. Now, are they complementary? Do they make a corner? And some people like to actually draw the corner. Do they give you that shape together? Be careful when you look here. Together, when you look at them together, they actually create this. Okay, when you put the blue part with the red part, or the purple part. Okay, angle 1 together with angle 2 form this straight line / straight angle. Okay, so they are not complementary. They do not make a corner. They make a straight line, so they're supplementary. Okay, now linear pair. Remember, that just says that they are next to each other and make a straight line or a straight angle. And we have already said that's exactly what they do. All right, let's look at number 4. Actually, pause the video, see if you guys can do number 4, and then come back. Take like a minute, see if you can do it. All right, so hopefully you paused. So if we look at angle 1, and then we look at angle 2, and again, if you want to put the arcs, you can. First thing we want to say, are they next to each other and do they share a side? So we look at it, we say, yes, they share this side right here. No, that makes them adjacent. If they are adjacent, they are not vertical. Okay, they can't be both. Do they make a corner? Now be careful here. Anytime they'll want you, if they want you to know that that makes a 90-degree corner, they will put the box down here in the picture. Do we see any box? No, so don't assume it, because some people look at this picture and they say to me, it looks like it's kind of a corner, okay? Meaning if you look at the entire thing together, this whole part right here in blue. Some people say it kind of looks like a 90-degree angle to me. It looks like a corner. Don't assume that unless they have drawn it, unless they have put that little box in the corner. Don't assume that it is 90 degrees. So without that box, we can't really be sure, so it's not complementary. Again, supplementary means they're next to each other and make a straight angle / line. Okay, they do not. They make what looks to be bigger than a 90-degree angle, so they're not supplementary. And if they're not supplementary, they're not linear, because linear just says they have to be next to each other and make a straight angle. All right, now number 5 always throws people off because there's a lot of stuff going on and people get hung up on all the extra that you don't need. They see the box, they see those weird little markings, and so people start losing their mind. So remember, little box means 90. So all they're telling you is that this angle right here is 90 degrees. Okay, that's nice. But it has nothing to do with angle 1 or 2. Okay, it's not marked angle 1 or 2. So that's not super helpful. So that's something you want to kind of just look at and go, okay, but it's not going to help you. What these marks here, these little arcs, these are arcs. But when they mark them with matching tick marks like that, they're trying to tell you that this angle up here that's marked angle 1 is the same measure as this angle right here where they don't have anything. Okay, but again, that's not super helpful or important because right now all we're looking at is angle 1 and angle 2. Now eventually we may get to this missing piece here, but right now that we're just identifying. So what you want to do is just trace angle 1. There's angle 1. And again, I'm going to erase this because this we don't need. And trace angle 2. Here's angle 2. Okay. And again, if you don't want to trace, you just want to put the arc on them. Okay, you can do this and you can do this just so you can get a better visual. All you want to be looking at are those 2 angles. So in other words, all of the other extra, all of this, you do not need to be looking at. And some people get very distracted and misled by extra. Okay, so if you need to, just cross all that stuff out so it's not distracting you. All you're looking at is that. So you see the X shape, okay? You see how it kind of makes an X. Are they next to each other? Are your 2 angles next to each other? You would say no. Next to means they have to share a side. They don't. Are they across from each other? Yes, they are. They're directly across from each other. Are they complementary? We need numbers for that. Okay, they clearly don't make a corner. Do they make a straight line together? No. So they're only vertical. All right, last one. Again, they're giving you a right angle. We're not going to really mess with that. We're just going to look at angle 1, and we're going to look at angle 2. Okay. Now, I probably should have done that in a different color. Let me redo that so the purples aren't blending all together. So there's angle 1. Here's angle 2. Okay. We're looking at angle 2. We're looking at angle 1. Okay, again, the box is extra right now. We're not concerned about that because it's not part of angle 1, it's not part of angle 2. It is telling you that is 90 right here, but for us right now, we don't need that. Okay, it's just there as a kind of a distractor. So, are these angles next to each other? Answer is no. Remember, next to each other, adjacent means they share a side. They do not. Oops. Don't check it. I was trying to cross it out. There we go. Are they across from each other? Are they directly across from each other? Why, yes, they are, right? Again, we don't have numbers, so these all don't apply. You need numbers to verify complementary. Okay. unless they make the corner, and you need numbers for supplementary and linear unless they together give you a straight angle. So that's what you guys are going to practice today. And the practices and quizzes, if you go to Canvas, you will see in your account, or not your account, but in your Canvas, if you go to today, if you click on this, okay, it will give you the link. You can just click the link, that blue link. If you're having difficulty or if the link is not working for you, then you can, if you look in red, it says if the link doesn't work for you, please go to joinmyquiz.com and enter the following code. The link should work, but just in case it doesn't, go to joinmyquiz.com and enter that code. Now, the only thing you want to make sure of is that your name is correct in quizzes. Okay. When you first click the link or sign in, it should pop your name up. If that's not your name, or if you have a nickname in there or something like that, you need to fix that, because to get credit, I have to know it's yours. Okay? And if you have your nickname like Baconator1, I don't know who Baconator number 1 is, so I won't be able to give you credit. So when you click the link, make sure it's your name, and if it's not, or there's nothing there, type your name in, first name, and the initial of your last name, or your whole name, not just your first name though, because we do have a couple people with the same name. So again, make sure your name is in quizzes so you can get credit for your work. If you need any help, just make sure that you ask. The quizzes, I believe you can redo it if you are not happy with your score. It's 10 questions, so it's, I think, going to do 10 points. So if you want the full credit, you can redo it, I believe. All right, if you have any questions, let us know.